Thank you very much. First of all, I want to clear something. I'm not a lawyer. I'm from Madame Teva Din. I'm not a lawyer. I'm really I'm working for 15 years in the marine area, and I'm doing a PhD in Haifa. But I was introduced as to represent here Adam Teva V'Din. So most of you think that I'm a tree hugger, or in our case, a kola hugger. But I want us to step aside from the hugging for a few minutes and talk about how all of us, startup industries, academia, government, all of us can use the sea to benefit from it, but to ensure its future. The marine environment is the foundation of our activities. It provides space for economic growth and vital ecosystem services. So marine degradation reduces these opportunities. Without healthy seas, we can have no fisheries, no ports, no tourism, no renewable energy, and no resilience to climate change. So in short, it's not just healthy seas, it's not just nice to have. If we want to succeed, it's a must. Unfortunately, the Eastern Mediterranean today is far from serving as a stable foundation. Its temperature and salinity in the upper layers are rising, and many ecosystems are today in degradation. Just a few examples for the latest ILOR report. We have mercury hotspot in the deep basin. We have 65% contamination in samples of commercial fish in Haifa Bay. We have fertilizer and organic load pollution in most estuaries, and we have large amount of litter on our coast. Meanwhile, governments is fragmented, and it spreads across ministries and agencies. We have short-term vision, we have regulatory gaps, and we have weak enforcement. This situation hinders entrepreneurship and innovation. Well-managed and sustainable blue innovation can be the game changer. Israel as a global hub for startups and advanced technologies can lead the blue economy that is both prosperous and sustainable. We need this technology to help us use marine resources more efficiently, to reduce environmental impact, and to create entirely new sector of economic growth. Many of the people here today are already deep in the process. However, and this is important, even the best initiatives with the best people can fail without proper management. I will give you an example of Swansea Tidal Lagoon in the United Kingdom. That was an amazing project, £1.3 billion renewable energy project plan to power over 150,000 homes. The project showed environmental and economic feasibility, but after 5 years it was cancelled. First, the economic reasons were stated, but post-inquiries made by the government stated that there was unclear decision-making by the authorities, lack of coordination across government and department and agencies, and lack of coherent national policy. Mainly, the report highlighted the absence of strategic framework and poor stakeholder engagement as a key failure. So you see, the lesson is clear. Even with the best environmental technologies, policy is crucial. For Israel, there are two urgent steps that must be taken. First, in the short term, the government must enact the law for preparedness and response for oil pollution, the Talmat. This law is based on 2008 decision submitted in 2021, still await approval. We had raised concern in Adam Teva V'Din. There's solely dependent on volunteers, and there's a shifting of responsibility on local authority without funding, and a lot of other stakeholders did raise the concern, but no substantial discussion has made on this law, and it's still stalled. Now, the difference between an incident of pollution under managed a policy, a clear policy, and an incident pollution that treated as we go without any strategy, without any preparedness, is the difference between management damage and irreversible disaster, as we were all being showed in the tar disaster in 2021, which cost the local authorities a lot of money, closed the beaches for a lot of weeks, and harmed really the environment. The absence of management led to this economic damage. Next time the consequences will be far worse. So we really need to prepare right now. In the long term, as we saw in the Swansea example, blue economy success depends on clear policy, accepted strategy, and engaged stakeholders. There is a bill drafted by Adam Teva Vedin from 2015 for a marine authority. An economic work done there showed that the damage that could happen could reach 730 million shekels, while the authority can cost us 10.5 million shekels a year. So if this authority will only reduce the damage by 1%, we are already cost effective. So this is really a thing that we have to promote a marine authority. I'm finishing. We have to understand that we are all, as we say, in the same boat. Academia, government, startup, no one can exist without the other. So we need the innovative technologies such as satellites, drone, underwater sensor for proper management, for proper decision making, and we need this decision making and policy for fertilize and for the blue economy. This balance between economic and sustainable is the key to our success. So this is my opening remarks. Thank you, and I would like to call our panelists for this session. Mr. Roberto Cecutti, First Counsellor, Head of Trade of Economics, Delegation of the European Union to Israel, and Dr. Udi Graff, Chairman of the Board, HiCenter Ventures. So first, thank you very much for being here. Really, it's an honor for all of us here to have you. And I would like to start with you, Roberto, and really start with the basic. Okay, let's go to the basic of management. So what does the EU really have a stake in blue economy?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me here, and thank you very much also for the public for being patient with us, and we learned a lot of interesting things. The starting point, actually, what is at stake for the EU is actually the European Union is an ocean union. And this is actually a paradigm shift. This morning I heard a lot that we know a lot about what is happening on Earth, on the Moon, on Mars, but we don't know much what is happening on oceans. And the fact that we always have in our economic belief a tendency to think about Earth and continents rather than water and ocean is really a paradigm shift in the mentality and the things. So we are an ocean union because, well, for some factual reasons. You see them on the screen, actually. So 25 square kilometers, 25 million square kilometers of our exclusive economic zones are under European Union jurisdiction. We're talking about 5 sea basins in the world. We're talking about the Mediterranean, of course, which is common with Israel. We're talking about the Black Sea, the Atlantic and the North Sea, but also the Baltic and the Arctic. So it's quite extensive. And actually 40% of European Union population lives within 50 kilometers from the coast. That means the resources from the sea and what comes of the sea is actually supporting these coastal communities. Also, we have a critical interest as EU in maritime matters because we have 70,000 kilometers of coastal line. That's the biggest in the world, actually. And 74% of our external trade takes place via maritime routes. And 99% of submarine cables, actually, are ensuring the internet connection between continents and Europe and the rest of the world. Europe is also a powerhouse in terms of blue economy. 5.5 million jobs are created by blue economy technologies and activities. 250 billion euro actually are generated annually from a blue economy. And we are talking about traditional sectors, which is fishing. Of course, we talk about tourism on the coastal areas, but also new and emerging sectors which are increasingly important with the new challenges we are facing. Renewable energy, so offshore wind, but also tidal technologies, carbon storage and capture for the sea. We're talking about undersea robotics and the exploration. We are talking about so many other technologies in that. One thing I was keen also to say that we have a lot of stake, but we are also a small player in fishery, because actually we represent only 5% of the global fishery production and 5% of the global fleet in the world. If you take 4 million vessels in the world, only 5% actually has a European Union flag. And if you talk about vessels in distant waters, actually we only have 250 vessels compared to the to vessels from other countries. But we are the largest seafood market. This is because in terms of consumption and in terms of processing, we are the largest in the world. Hence, we have a stake of having sustainability in all this. Let's say also that our key trajectory in the European Union is climate, to become a climate neutral continent by 2050. So that means we have a European Green Deal, which is a number of policies to green our way of producing and our way of consuming. And hence ocean is an important element in these policies. 50% of the oxygen is produced by the ocean, 70% of the Earth's surface is occupied by ocean, and 80% of biodiversity comes from ocean resources. Hence, we have an interest in keeping and preserving all that. That is what are at stake. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So let's take what you say and ask Udi. Well, in our local area, in Israel, how do you see the role of our government, the government institution, in driving blue economy? And is the blue economy truly shared responsibility, or is it a self-interest?
Governments have a role, but not to dominate. The two drivers of blue economy are entrepreneurs, investors, and innovators. Government institutions should set clear goals, reduce bureaucracy, and open global markets. They should provide data, rules, and infrastructure, but not micromanagement. In practice, every region protects its own interests. Europe shields its farmers, the US protects its energy sector, and Asia prefer its fisheries. Global cooperation is common, but local self-interest wins. We've seen it thousands of times. I believe that progress will come from strong local wins that later scale globally. Governments must back pilots, align incentives, and open doors internationally. Water and ocean innovation must be a strategic priority, not someday, now. Governments protect clean energy and digitize infrastructure. They must do the same for the blue resilience?
Thank you very much for your answer, and I will come back to you, Roberto. I want to know, so today and for the future, what do you see the challenges we have today regarding the blue economy, but challenges usually can be opportunities as well, so.
Definitely. And on purpose, I take the question actually from a very macro perspective, because we heard this morning a bit the technological challenges in terms of mobilizing investments or getting into new fields. But I think the macro policy should be that these challenges should be the major challenges the planet is facing that should drive the technology also research in the details. The planet is facing 4 key challenges, and we all know them. One is definitely the biodiversity loss. What I said before, 80% of biodiversity takes place in the oceans. The marine resources are absolutely important. How can you turn that challenge into an opportunity? We know that marine resources are important for pharmaceuticals, for feeding the planet. We know that it's important also for regeneration of the water. Hence, preserving this biodiversity is very important. Hence, technologies to monitor what is happening in the ocean, to know better how to track certain species of life, and see how we can promote better food and new research are key. The other biggest challenge, of course, is climate change. We know the melting of the ice of the Arctic and the Antarctic, what is causing. I just read yesterday, you talked about the UK before. I read about a lake in Northern Ireland which is now polluted by by weeds, which actually, with the warming of the climate, the lake, the algae have increased, and the lake now is completely covered in algae. And this lake provides 40% of water consumption in Northern Ireland, and now it's becoming polluted. How can that be? So the transformation in terms of technology is that we need technology to fight these algae, see how to keep them under control, and not to mention the biggest challenge of melting of ice, glaciers and other things. Of course, then we have pollution. The plastic in the sea, microplastics, other type of plastics, which requires not only an educational change, which is key, of course, in terms of behavior, but also technology. I read that there is now a sort of a little ball that you put in the ocean that is absorbing the microplastic, actually, and that then comes to the seashore. So these kind of technologies are super important for the pollution in the water. And of course, then the biggest challenge again is overfishing. Overfishing because we have a limited number, a limited quantity of fish resources, and we are over-exploiting them. So there is an increase in global competition, and as I put it in the slide, I just wanted to put this. 6 economies in the world, actually, represent 86% of public support to fisheries. And these are the economies which are the biggest in terms of global catch, fleet capacity and employment. So there is a correlation between increased subsidies to fishing activities and increasing in vessels and exploitation and depletion of marine resources. How the technological opportunity here is how can we make sure that these fishing routes that exist in the world, we can better monitor them, and we can also recreate and regenerate marine environments where fishes can come back from where they left. So
we have a lot.
A lot.
We have a lot. So,
definitely.
So I would like to approach you because, as you say, we have a list of challenges but opportunities too. So really about how do we manage it? How do you see here in Israel, do we manage it? Do we have first technology and then governments? Do we have, is the order is upside down, or how do you see this whole needs to be managed?
After 20 years with startups, I think that waiting for perfect validation is a luxury that we don't have. The oceans are warming, fish stocks collapsing, and CO2 is rising fast. My view, scale promising solutions early, accept some failures, and learn fast. Innovation is always messy, but speed is survival. Nature is the base, engineering is the multiplier. The choice is not science versus speed. It is science with speed. On technology versus nature, the major question is who can deliver the gigaton's impact. Everybody has solution, lot of talking, but the order of magnitude that we are talking about is the key issue. Natural solutions add extra environmental benefits. Since 75% of the earth is covered by water, I think that the future of carbon removal is clearly in the water. Phytoplankton is a game changer. It is doubling its biomass every 2 hours. They absorb 400 times more CO2 per acre than tree. 400 times more CO2 per acre than trees and forests. We must expand nature-based tools with engineering to boost them. The winning path is natural tools, then that can be scalable and measurable.
Thank you very much. I would like to know now, okay, let's talk a little bit practical. What are the policies that the European Union have today to address these challenges and opportunities?
Yeah. No, thank you. You mentioned the importance of actually policy and political lines in order to drive not only how we cope with the challenges, but also how we create opportunities. So how we stimulate investment, innovation in the sectors that are needed to cope with the challenges. So as EU, actually, we have exclusive, you know that the EU is a union of 27 member states. We have actually our friends from France here also today, and I heard this morning also many, some Germans and some French people participating also. And so a lot of policies are managed at local, at national level. At EU level, we have exclusive competence of what we call the common fishery policy, how we manage the fishery resources in our exclusive economic zones, but also how we make it sustainable and how we preserve biodiversity. That's also our competence. So that means we have clear political and policy guidelines on how we can better preserve actually the oceans. So one comes from the reform of the EU common fishery policy, which we are now adapting in order to create really an external aspect. So whatever we do at domestic level, how we do it better at international level. And we have what we call also the European Ocean Pact that was just adopted in June 2025. I like what you said at the beginning, the importance actually for all stakeholders to act together under a holistic approach with a policy framework, and that's exactly the European Ocean Pact. Very quickly, the reform of the EU Common Fishery Policy, 2011, we realized that overfishing is becoming a problem. Hence, the key purpose of the reform was to make fishing more sustainable, but also Sustainable in creating also opportunities, in fact. So we acted along several lines. First was strengthening the cooperation at regional level, because we have regional fishery management organizations that they work much better together. We also put for a definition of what is sustainable fishing in all that, and we work better also on the governance. And the EU Common Fishery Policy, as we speak, is undergoing a review, a policy review, and we launched in August a call for evidence to all governments and all stakeholders. Our friend from the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishery, actually, we were notifying also to them. They can also present their ideas of how our policy can be better shaped, and you as NGO and all other NGOs can also participate. And the idea is exactly to find the right balance between what is sustainability and also food security. Because in a world as it is now, we know that fishing resources are also essential for coastal community in many countries, in many developing countries. But we need to fight and have zero tolerance for illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing. This has to stop, because otherwise we are depleting our resources, and we need to strengthen much more the cooperation at international level on what we do. A word about the European Ocean Pact that was adopted in June this year. This is exactly this overarching policy framework where we want to bring all policies that has an impact on the ocean, being from an economic policy, being from an environmental policy, a climate change, or innovation, etc., under only one framework which governs action at international, national, local levels, and also which presents a framework for cooperation with civil society, with academia, with researchers, with innovators, with public and private operators. There are 6 priorities under this Ocean Pact. One is the health of our ocean. We want to restore and regenerate the health of our ocean, because we know the challenges that it's facing. The second one is to create a blue economy which is both competitive but also sustainable, balancing these two aspects. The third priority is strengthen the resilience of the coastal communities, because they rely on the ocean and on the sea for their survival and for the economic activity. Fourth is research and development, which is key in order to cope with the challenges. 5 is maritime security and defense. We know the shipping and the role that this has for our own defense. And number 6 is, of course, everything which is related to international governance and partnerships. Now, a key pillar of this Ocean Pact is also the financing element. You cannot have innovation, competitiveness, coping with priority if you don't have the money. But the money has to be spent better according to clear orientations. This is why we, in 2019, in Europe, we have put in place what we call this Blue Invest. And Israel can participate in Blue Invest. Has some of you heard about Blue Invest? Can you raise your hand if you did? Oh, thank you. Only one. Nobody, that's good. Nobody, yeah, 2, 3. So Blue Invest, I'm not saying that this is a perfect instrument, it's a financial instrument, but was put in place actually to scale up technologies in blue economy and also to spur innovation and competitiveness. So it gives technical assistance actually to economic operators, innovators, to European Union members, but associated countries, and Israel is one of them, can participate in the pipeline of projects. Each project funded under Blue Invest is exactly aimed at showcasing innovation and technological upscale in blue technologies, in fact. So there is Blue Invest, and then I have here also my colleague over there, Gediminas Ramanauskas from the EU delegation, who's the head, he's raising the hand now, he's the head of the research and development branch of our delegation. And under Horizon Europe, I guess everybody has heard about Horizon Europe. Can you raise your hand? a bit more than Blue Invest. I'm proud. And under Horizon Europe, there are funding available exactly for blue technology and blue economy in different forms. And as we speak also, we have an initiative under Horizon Europe called Bridge. And Bridge, the theme of this bridge, as the word says, is aimed at building bridges and passerelles between economic operators, innovators, researchers across the globe. The theme of this year is aquaculture. And there will be actually a 2-day event in Athens under the bridge. And I think even Israeli stakeholders will participate in Athens on that. So the problem sometimes is not the availability of funding, is to know where they are and create better synergy amongst the funding to pursue very clear political and policy objectives. Thanks.
Thank you. That was very inspiring for us, I think. We see that the EU is really progressed with policy and regulating the marine area. And I would like to ask you a very tough question, as I see. Where do you see the balance? How can we make an effective and good balance between governmental and between innovation and blue economy, and who should lead? Who will be? Is it the government that should lead, the regulatory should lead, or is it the market?
I would say, not surprisingly, I think that the innovation must lead. Startups cannot wait years for new rules. Regulation should follow proven impact, scaling safely and globally. If we regulate too early, we freeze the progress. Funding is another issue. Public money is important to de-risk early ideas, but private capital must drive urgency and scale. Governments should fund research, pilots, and infrastructure, but then after to step back. Private investors bring speed, accountability, and primarily ambition. In Israel, we saw many times small government funding usually unlocked big private investments. We saw it few times. In Europe, billions often slow down the system with bureaucracy. The right mix, government to enable and de-risk, private to drive and scale. The sequence also matters. Public to spark, private to scale.
Thank you very much. So I have the last question for both of you. And, sorry? So I don't have the last question, but it was the best question. It was the one of optimism, and we really need it now in these days. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.